For over 4,500 years, the sands of Saqqara have guarded Egypt's deepest secrets. We are taught to believe that Egypt was built by pharaohs, all-powerful god-kings who commanded empires. But what if the greatest mind in Egyptian history wasn't a pharaoh at all? What if the blueprint for the entire civilization was drawn by a single ordinary man? His name was Imhotep. He was a commoner who rose from absolute obscurity to become the most powerful man in the kingdom. He was a master architect, the world's first recorded physician, a high priest, and an astronomer who could read the stars. Centuries after his death, the Egyptians did something unprecedented. They didn't just remember him, they worshipped him as a literal god. Yet, despite his monumental legacy, his final resting place, his legendary tomb, has vanished from the face of the earth. It is the holy grail of biblical archaeology. In this three-part series, we are unlocking the forbidden files of history. This is part 1, the rise of a genius and the birth of the first pyramid. To understand the genius of Imhotep, we must travel back to the 27th century BC, the era of the Third Dynasty. Egypt was not yet the golden empire we imagine today. There were no towering stone pyramids. There was no Valley of the Kings. Egypt was fragile, deeply superstitious, and recovering from centuries of internal tribal wars. Born as a commoner, Imhotep had no royal blood. In the rigid hierarchy of ancient Egypt, your birth dictated your destiny. But Imhotep possessed a mind that boundaries could not contain. He mastered the art of reading and writing at a time when less than 1% of the population was literate. He didn't just copy texts, he studied the mechanics of nature, the anatomy of the human body, and the movement of the celestial bodies. His intelligence was so blinding that it caught the attention of the royal court. When a young, ambitious pharaoh named Djoser ascended the throne, he realized he needed more than warriors to build his legacy. He needed a visionary. Djoser appointed Imhotep as his vizier, the equivalent of a prime minister. Imhotep became the chancellor of the king of Lower Egypt, the first after the king and the high priest of Heliopolis. Never before and never after would a commoner hold such terrifying authority. But Imhotep's loyalty and intellect were soon put to the ultimate test. According to ancient inscriptions found on the famine stela, a catastrophic event struck Egypt. For 7 long years, the Nile River failed to flood. In Egypt, the Nile was life. Without the flood, the crops withered, the grain stores emptied, the kingdom fell into brutal chaos, and starvation walked the streets of Memphis. Pharaoh Djoser was desperate. The people were losing faith in their god-king. Djoser turned to Imhotep and asked, "Where is the birthplace of the Nile? Which god is responsible for this misery?" Imhotep did not guess. He didn't rely on superstition. Instead, he traveled to the sacred archives of Heliopolis. He spent days researching ancient texts and mapping the stars. He returned to the pharaoh with a solution. He discovered that Khnum, the god of the water source, was neglected. Imhotep designed a spiritual and economic strategy, advising Djoser to restore the temples and dedicate land to the god. Shortly after, the Nile flooded again, and Egypt was saved. Imhotep wasn't just an advisor anymore. To the people, he was a savior who could speak directly to the cosmos. With the kingdom restored, Djoser wanted to secure his immortality. He wanted a tomb that would outlast time itself. Before Imhotep, all Egyptian kings were buried in mastabas, flat, rectangular tombs made of mud bricks. Mud bricks, however, rot, dissolve, and crumble. Imhotep looked at the mud bricks and made a decision that changed human history forever. He said, "We will not build with mud, we will build with stone." Today this sounds obvious, but in 2670 BC, engineering with megascale stone did not exist anywhere on the planet. Imhotep had to invent the entire technology from scratch. He organized thousands of workers, created a massive supply chain, and invented new tools to cut and transport limestone from the quarries of Tura. But his true genius was the design. He started by building a traditional stone mastaba, but it wasn't enough. Imhotep wanted a ladder to the heavens. He built another mastaba on top of the first one, then another, and another. When he was finished, a majestic, six-tiered step pyramid towered over the desert. It stood 60 meters tall, the world's first ever skyscraper made of stone. It wasn't just a tomb, it was a cosmic machine, designed to launch the pharaoh's soul directly to the North Star. Underneath this massive pyramid, Imhotep engineered a terrifying labyrinth, a network of tunnels, shafts, and galleries stretching for nearly 6 kilometers. This underground city was filled with thousands of sacred vessels, beautiful and a massive granite burial chamber. Imhotep had successfully altered the trajectory of human architecture. He proved that humans could build monuments that could challenge eternity. But as the Step Pyramid reached completion and Pharaoh Djoser finally passed into the afterlife, something strange happened. The master architect himself vanished from the historical record. No mentions of his final days, no records of his death. It is as if the man who built Egypt simply evaporated into the desert sands. Imhotep's story was far from over. While his architecture stunned the ancient world, it was his secret knowledge of the human body and medicine that would later turn him into a god. But how did a man from 4,500 years ago perform complex brain surgeries without modern tools? And where is his lost tomb hidden today? We are just a few steps away from a major channel milestone. If you enjoy deep historical mysteries and want to help us uncover the truth, please hit that subscribe button right now. In part 2, we are diving deep into Imhotep's forbidden medical texts, his dark connection to the occult, and the modern scientific proof that he was millennia ahead of his time. Click the video on your screen to stay tuned, and we will see you in the next chapter of history.